Any sort of alcohol use.
I would like to advise all those present that notice of this meeting has been provided to the public in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, and that notice was published Jersey Journal City website. Copies provided to the record, the North Star Ledger, and also placed on a bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall. Objections, if any, shall be made to the city clerk.
Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Freeman, please call the roll.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Fusco?
Present.
Mr. Doyle?
Present.
Ms. Fisher? Jean Tino?
Here.
Mr. Quintero?
Present.
Mr. Ramos?
Present.
Mr. Russo?
Present.
President Jabour?
Here.
That's good light.
Quorum present.
Okay. Just a few housekeeping items for those who are not in the room. On the agenda, there have been some last-minute updates. So if you're here, you should see it marked. But CD1, CD3, and CD4 have all been removed. And just for clarity, too, B607, B608, and B611 are all carried until the next meeting. Knowing that there is a few new faces in the audience, I also just wanted to kind of give you a run of show so you know what's happening. We're going to start this evening with a presentation and then go into second readings. If you're here to speak about a particular issue that's on the agenda, you can sign up and indicate right over here with your name and what item you wish to speak on. If you wish to speak on something that has nothing to do with anything that's on the agenda, there's a separate sheet that says public comment on non-agenda items, and you're welcome to come up and you get your 5 minutes to speak. So if you wish to speak, please just make sure you sign up over here. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Director Sharp for a presentation.
Great. Thank you, Council President. Testing. I'm using a different microphone today. All right. Happy first day of November, City Council. So Olga and I tonight are going to give a very brief presentation at a high level on some traffic safety and circulation improvements that have been implemented in the southwest part of the city over the last 5-6 years. I'll try to get through it quickly. Olga as well. If you have any questions, probably smoother to wait till the end, but if you have an itching question you can't wait, it's okay if you jump in while we're presenting. All right? So to get started, a little bit of project background. There was really an expanded focus on circulation and safety improvements in Southwest Hoboken around 2016. A few things were happening at that time in the city. One, crash data was showing that there were multiple streets and intersections in that part of the city that had disproportionately high rates of crashes and injuries. Two, the Southwest redevelopment plan was under development at the time, and that was going to go on to be the catalyst for how the neighborhood would evolve in the near future. And then three, Southwest Park was under design and then construction around that time. So it's critical that we really emphasized safety and circulation in this area so that people could safely access the park. So around that time, the city hired a traffic engineer, Brightview Engineering, to do a traffic study and develop a traffic model that would focus on multiple things, but in this case, reducing traffic congestion in Southwest Hoboken, in parallel, reducing air pollution and improving safety for all roadway users. So out of that traffic study came about 24 recommendations, too many to really implement at one time in one phase. So the way things worked, many of the recommendations were split into two phases. And phase one mainly included 3 new traffic signals on Observer Highway, right? One at Madison and Observer, one at Jackson and Observer, and one at Harrison and Observer Highway. Also, the existing traffic signal at Jackson Street and Patterson Avenue was upgraded at that time. Also, there were some lane reconfigurations and some other safety improvements that were included at this time on Harrison Street, Jackson Street, Madison Street, Jersey Avenue, and Observer Highway. So all of these improvements were implemented in 2017, late 2017, as part of what I'm calling Phase 1. There were some additional significant recommendations that were held back at this point in time. The most significant of those was converting Patterson Avenue to be one-way westbound. Patterson Avenue is a Hudson County road. It's under Hudson County's jurisdiction. So the county really wanted to see how these Phase 1 improvements fared for at least 2 years before committing to converting Patterson Avenue to be one-way westbound. So 2 years fly by. The city re-engages or rehires Brightview Engineering to evaluate how the Phase 1 improvements fared. There were very positive outcomes in reducing travel time delay. So the city re-engaged Hudson County about Phase 2, which, again, the signature component of that was converting Patterson Avenue to be one-way westbound. And so Hudson County agreed to that. They agreed to do it as a pilot project. And so in the summer of 2021, that conversion was made in July. At the same time, Marshall Street was also converted to be one-way northbound, and 2nd Street was converted from one-way westbound to two-way between Marshall Street and Jackson Street. So these two components should, in theory, per the traffic study, work well together. Making Marshall Street one-way northbound eliminated a southbound movement that required having green time at Patterson Avenue near the light rail. And making Patterson Avenue one-way westbound eliminated that southeast movement and effectively the 5th leg of the intersection at Monroe Street, Observer Highway, and where Patterson Avenue intersect. So additionally, as part of Phase 2, the city engaged NJ Transit and NJ DOT, the City of Jersey City as well, on synchronization and improvements to the light rail signal at Marshall Street and 1st Street and Patterson Avenue. And that was a critical piece of all this because that signal kind of functions as the master in Southwest Hoboken because of the light rail. And so without making improvements to that specific signal, there was really a ceiling on the level of improvement that we could get by converting Patterson Avenue to be one-way westbound, as well as the other improvements to Marshall Street, et cetera. So we worked closely with NJ Transit and NJ DOT. It actually took us years in the making to cultivate these relationships with them and get them to finally come out and do this work. And so all of these improvements were implemented between 2021 and 2022. I just mentioned all the interagency coordination. And so I'm going to turn it over to Olga in a second. She's going to talk about the after study and the outcomes from the Patterson Avenue one-way pilot.
Thank you, Director Sharp, council members, and to the public. I'm going to be Olga Garcia, your city engineer. I'm going to be presenting the post-implementation study findings. Now you say, okay, this is great, Director Sharp and City of Hoboken, transportation and traffic group. Now, what does that mean to me as a resident, as a council member that uses that route to get home or get out of Hoboken? So let me show you the data. You want the data? Here's the data in front of you. The orange bars, they represent the volume of vehicles that are going through this corridor. This particular corridor is the one that is coming from 18th Street and Jersey City, going northbound, northwestbound. You go up on Jersey Avenue, make the right on Newark, make the left on Jackson, and another left on Patterson Avenue. So as you can see, and interpreting from this chart, what do we see? Oranges are higher. Your volume in 2019 was 10,236 trips. Now you have 12,729. And what is the yellow line that we see that is declining? What does that mean? That is your time, your travel time. What a vehicle, compared to 2019, the time that it will take you to drive that corridor. In 2019 versus 2022, that it was a decrease of 47% in your AM peak hour. AM is typically 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So you go faster through that corridor, and then since you go faster, more vehicles go to that corridor. The PM reduction in travel time was 42%. So yes, more vehicles are going through that corridor, but it takes you less time compared to 2019. And this data is from 2022 when we did the study. The next corridor, how about when I come from Jersey City southeast on Patterson Avenue? This corridor will take you on Patterson Avenue, make a right turn on Harrison Street, and then make another right turn onto Newark/Jersey Avenue. Again, what do you see? You see the oranges that represent the number of vehicles traveling that corridor has increased. 2019, we have data here shown for 2017 was 7,063 vehicles. Now in 2022, 9,886. What about the yellow? We also had an improvement on the travel time of those vehicles. The faster time that vehicles go through that corridor means that more vehicles are traveling through it. The peak hour in the AM, which is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., is a decrease of 46%. The PM improvement, which is typically 4 to 6, is 22% decrease in the travel time. Let's go to the next corridor. We have the corridor on New York Avenue on Observer Highway going east. Again, we show here that the increase on volume and a decrease on the AM travel time of 42%, and the PM travel time, a reduction on 35%. Now, how about exiting Hoboken? We care about exiting Hoboken. What is the improvement, City of Hoboken? Well, we see more traffic. Unfortunately here, although it's a great improvement, we only reduce the travel time by 6% in the AM. And this is when you are traveling on Newark Avenue, going southwest, and then along Observer Highway into New York Avenue. The AM travel time was decreased by 6%. The PM travel time was decreased by 23%. So what is the summary of the result of this study? A 15% increase in traffic volumes between 2019 to 2022, 25 to 40% decrease in travel times throughout the area, and 56% decrease in crashes and injuries. And that for us and the Vision Zero Task Force, that's very important. And I'll leave you what's next, Olga. I see a lot of improvements, but we still probably have some other issues. Yes, just because we finished phase 2, that doesn't mean that there are other things that we need to do and that we're working on. And one of those things is a grant that we got from the federal government. It's a CMAQ grant, and that grant would allow us to coordinate those traffic signals on Patterson Avenue according to the volume of traffic that are traveling to there. I think a couple of council meetings ago, you awarded a concept development contract to MBI to work along with the county on that. So unfortunately, federal grants are a little bit slower in pace, but we're moving that along with DOT. We're also going to be doing some pedestrian leading interval upgrades at Jackson and Patterson intersection. Recently, also, Monroe Street and Observer Highway and First, we had that analyzed, and we see a need of improving the traffic timings on that intersection so we can release some of that volume of the vehicles that are traveling south on Monroe and making that right turn to Patterson. We are going to be setting a meeting with Hudson County to evaluate, because at the end of the day, it's their traffic signal. But we had our on-call traffic engineer make that evaluations because we got a lot of complaints of those vehicles backing up on Monroe Avenue. So we're going to be making those recommendations to the Hudson County engineers to implement those new changes. And the list goes on, you know. We're going to be implementing other fast charging vehicle stations by the park and level 2 vehicle charging stations. So there's more to come always. We just need the money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Council members, any questions? No, Councilman Ramos, it's your ward, so you want to start? Sure.
Thank you, Councilwoman, the Council President. It's a project I've worked with you guys on for a number of years now, so I appreciate where we've come from and where we are today. And obviously, the most important point for me is recognizing the TBD, what we're going to do next, right? It's to be determined things, because I appreciate both of you guys. When I had residents contact me about traffic issues in the area, you've both contacted those residents personally. You reached out. We've had a number of conversations with the residents in their neighborhood because they witness this all the time. So we can show them data daily, and it's what you feel, right? For the most part, and they're looking out their window and they're feeling a little bit differently about those things. Specifically, the Monroe going south. You just mentioned the last portion of it. So we wanted to go a little more specific as to what those changes would be, because a lot of the elements we're looking at, right? When you engineer something, it's all on paper, but then you have the human element, and the human element you really can't. There's really not. You can't quantify the human element. Right? I'm a teacher. I plan lesson plans, and I think it's going to be a great lesson. And then you go in there, I have a disruptive student, or I have a student vomiting in the back of the classroom, or you have someone that didn't understand what I thought they would understand. So you have to change it all up. So I think the fact that we're missing is like the human element of having maybe a physical presence to help direct that traffic in front of beer and soda outlet on that Monroe area, where that area blocks the box. And I know a number of residents have sent us videos. You've seen the videos. I've seen the videos of that happening. And I think that's something that we need to discuss internally and make that a priority. Because those things aren't going to happen overnight, right? The TBDs aren't going to happen overnight. That's one thing where we could change overnight potentially by adding that human element with the county. I've reached out to them as well to have that human element, try to control that, blocking the box in that area when they're going east and westbound as well as southbound along Monroe, and making that clock point there. That's something that I would like to see addressed. And I like the Jackson Street turns as well. We discussed in the last couple of weeks where pedestrians are making that southbound or northbound on Patterson Plank Road on Jackson, and the car is just making that left-hand turn as soon as it turns green, and pedestrians don't get that opportunity to cross the street. So I appreciate you looking into that as well. So if we can add that human element, that's not going to happen. Those things aren't going to happen overnight. I think that'll help us in the interim, the short term, as we have our long-term goals as well. But overall, I think I'm pleased with where we are, but a long way to go yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing those portions of it. Thank you, Council President. There's a question in there somewhere, so feel free to answer.
Council President?
Sure.
If I may, first and foremost, thank you to Councilman Ramos for his continued advocacy on this front. I do recall in 2016 we co-sponsored the initial allocation of funds that led to this 2016 traffic study with then Mayor Zimmer. So it's good to see that this has continued to progress. You know, it is a question because like we're using 23 numbers comparing like post-pandemic numbers comparing to pre-pandemic. And, you know, I'm not sitting out there with what are the counters called? Little counters that you guys use? Yeah. I'm not sitting out with one of those, but like I sense that there is less vehicular traffic, but am I wrong there? Or I'm just worried that as, you know, we're comparing numbers that aren't like apples to apples.
So are you concerned that the after data is not representative of kind of what the initial goals were of the study?
Concern would be overstating it. It's like we're relying on these, you know, like we're looking at numbers, right? And, you know, and I'm not sure those numbers are again, comparative, right? Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic numbers. So like, I'd love you to look at that and maybe just, you know, get us some updates on that. Secondly, like there's items we discussed, and these are big picture items that I don't want to call them pie in the sky, but like we need to like, you always hear me say this, politics being the art of the possible, you know, and you now having stronger relationships with transit and the county. Obviously, there was the tragic car accident that happened well up Patterson Plank Road that took the lives of far too many young people, injuring others. You know, the rerouting of Patterson Plank Road was something that I was talking about with Councilman Ramos back in 2016. It required collaboration with the government of Jersey City because to reroute Patterson Plank Road on the west side over the train tracks there. So that way the traffic completely diverts away from Hoboken. So it's Jersey City traffic to Jersey City. That was something that we had talked about, and I do think that it's worthwhile to consider. My fear, Jersey City has redevelopment plans already in place, and I'm wondering if the conversations ever happened with the Phillip administration.
Are you talking about the bypass road?
Yes. Yep.
That goes behind.
Because it was, if you recall, that was in the master plan. That was in the Southwest redevelopment plan. We talked about it extensively with your predecessor and you as well. I'm wondering if we might want to consider revisiting those conversations.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that we have really good coordination with Jersey City.
Great.
And in fact, you brought up that crash from about a week or two ago.
Yeah.
So Jersey City, Hoboken, and now Hudson County are all Vision Zero communities. Hudson County just launched Vision Zero by executive order as well about a month ago. So we actually had a meeting amongst all three jurisdictions to review potential short-term, medium-term, and long-term improvements to Patterson Plank Road. So Hoboken was involved in that discussion, even though it wasn't really in our jurisdiction. And so that level of coordination, I think, is going to be critical for making all kinds of improvements to part of Hoboken moving forward, whether it's in our boundary or not. To answer your original question, we have had discussions with Jersey City for years about the bypass road, and it's always been a tricky discussion to have because of development pressures that are in that area. So something that we'll continue to discuss with them, but in my opinion, I wouldn't hold out hope that it's something that is achievable in the near term.
But I really do appreciate that, and why don't we as a council, and I'm happy to sidebar with everyone on this one to kind of explain what the original kind of Southwest redevelopment plan called for, which is Patterson Plank Road bypassing, not having to come down Newark Street and kind of bypassing Hoboken so that people going from the Heights were able to continue down to where the cast iron lofts are now without causing all of the intersection around the Southwest Park. I'd love a joint resolution of the council to the Phillip administration supporting that. I think it sends the right message, and it's good to hear that the administration is working well. And I think if we all talk to Mayor Phillip, talk to his administration using our individual relationships, I think there might be something there. Also, I'm off the council, happy to act as an emissary to make sure that we continue that conversation, because it really is important. Like, you can't predict what would have happened without, if we didn't have this straightaway, if there was more county, participation in Patterson Plank Road. But I think we still have an opportunity here. So thank you very much, Director. Thank you, colleagues.
We can raise that in the next Transportation Subcommittee meeting if that's helpful. Councilman.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure. Council Vice President.
Thank you. This one I think is probably an easier fix. So as traffic's coming back into Hoboken on Newark at that left turn on Jackson, right? You have a ton of cars that continually make that left turn from the right lane. I don't know. I as a layperson, a simple fix is put up some temporary bollards between the two lanes and kind of force everybody the way they should be going. But I get calls on that constantly about people coming back into town. So I think on a grand scheme level, that's probably one of the smaller things that we could accomplish. And I think it gives our community that constant feedback that the councilman was talking about, to feel that human factor that, all right, we're making these changes as fast as we possibly can. And this is a simpler one that we were able to do that. So again, you guys are the professionals. I'm sure you'll figure out what the best course of action is, but that's something I get constantly. So just wanted to put it on your radar.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Great.
Just very briefly, I mean, for people coming in and out of the city at rush hour, saving a minute and a half, saving almost 3 minutes going through there is real time, is real frustration, and real progress. So I think there's a lot to be proud of here. This is clearly one of the major pinch points of the city. And to see data like this, I think it affirms what a lot of us felt already, that things were going better, going under the railroad trestle and coming through there. But to actually see these numbers, I think, is really excellent. So I just want to give kudos to the administration, to Olga, to Ryan, and for all the people you work with on this, because you're making things better for people coming and going into our city. So thank you.
Just one point. we could also just add, next meeting to Councilman DeFusco's point, New Jersey Transit also has a plan to elevate the light rail tracks in that area as well as part of their capital improvement plan. And I think it's $32 million for that. Am I right on that, right? Or that, more. Okay, close. 3D number. But if we could just add on supporting that portion of the project too, that'll also help us out.
The two overpass, the one on Patterson, and then the one on New York Avenue too.
Correct.
They will have to be done simultaneously to make it work.
Yeah, so that's also would be an important component, even less than the time Councilman Cohen just spoke about. Right, without a doubt, the time is down. Right, so I think we have a lot to be happy about there. But again, the people that living directly in it, hear the horns honking and all that. We have to think about them and just keep on moving forward, just tweaking it until it's never going to be perfect, but get as perfect as we can. So I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just quickly, not to take away from the Southwest, but if you're going to talk about New Jersey Transit and $32 million to elevate the tracks, I'm hoping that someone's talking to New Jersey Transit about adding a light rail station to 15th Street in Northwest Hoboken. We don't have to get an update now, but if you're having those, like $32 million seems like an eye-popping number when, the 12 or 15 million. What did you say? Oh, okay. Okay.
It was low.
Well, whatever it is,
It's much higher than that.
It's much higher. The only point being, and I think Councilman Cohen would agree, like we've been having this conversation about having a light rail. So if you're talking with New Jersey Transit, let's have the full robust conversation so we can have that uptown and be able to move more people using public transportation, maybe less cars. So.
Any other questions? I'll just add my thanks. I think the biggest takeaway for me was the data with respect to injuries and crashes in that neighborhood, because I think that for me is my biggest interest in Vision Zero. And in light of, as Councilman DeFusco mentioned, the crash that happened up on Patterson Plank that killed 3 young kids, I think that should be in the forefront of our minds in these presentations. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Freena, second readings.
Hearing on an ordinance B612, an ordinance of the City of Hoboken amending Chapter 62 Shade Tree Commission to expand the number and powers of the commission.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak on this?
Rosemary Markle.
Rose Markle? And just as a reminder, we're starting with B612. The first 3 items are carried. Yep.
Yeah, I wrote that.
Just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
I have my notes. So that shade tree, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong. The duties and responsibilities that were the environmental department, who get paid and receive raises, will now be the responsibility of the commission, which is made up of residents who are not paid. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's how I read it. How will this all take place? If residents have a complaint, how are they supposed to report it? I mean, details really matter on these things that are being written like this. And why is it being taken away and given to a commission, a body made up of residents?
So it's an existing commission. It's just expanding the number of people. It doesn't change.
No, but it changed the duties, go to them instead of, right. That's my question, like, why? And I have to come back for the rest, right?
If it's another item, yes.
Yes.
Are there any other members of the public signed up to speak on the Shade Tree Commission? Mr. Freena?
Wait.
Anybody?
Motion to close.
Oh,
Hang on. I have a feeling there's one more. Manuel Rivera Soler?
Second.
Do you guys have the sign-up sheet?
Got Patricia Wayne.
Let's let Manny go. He's already up there.
We'll call Patricia Waiters in a few
We'll call her
minutes.
next. No
Thank
problem.
you, Council President and
No problem.
Mr. Clerk. Yes, I think I spoke on regards to this ordinance in the last meeting. Again, just like the prior member of the public, I would also like to know what or how many people it is that it's going to finally be on this commission. I follow the meetings. The people who are there are very knowledgeable, and again, it would be important to know how many more people, or are there going to be also, for lack of a better term, regular members of the public, meaning people who are not botanists or tree surgeons or stuff like this, as well as is on one of the pages. I believe that the powers of the commission, for some reason, I believe that some of the powers were had strikes on them, meaning I don't understand if you're amending the powers, why have they been stricken in the ordinance? Again, it's very complicated to figure it out when it's written this way. And again, the director of environmental services is now going to be the head of the tree commission. Could that be clarified for members of the public as well? It's very important because, like I said, the prior speaker made a comment. This is a commission that meets on Mondays. Usually, they touch on all topics having to do with trees and greenery around Hoboken. So it would be behooving to you to let the members of the public know, because although sometimes this commission goes under the radar, but it's very important because they determine where new trees are going to be and new developments. The zoning board, planning board, they have to be involved. Their opinion is valid for these other boards. So it is important for them to have at least some sense of what they say or what they're going to comment on is going to have weight. And that is only that's basically what I would like to know. If somebody could let us know exactly what is the weight that their commission is going to carry for the rest of the city. Thank you very much, Council President.
Tricia Waiters.
Ms. Waiters, did you want to speak on the Shade Tree Commission? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, motion to close public portion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Director Freeman, do you want to just give us a quick summary of what this encompasses?
Sure. So the commission is increasing from 5 members to 7. The 5 previously were never paid. This is a volunteer commission. And the duties don't really change much. Essentially, all the things that were mentioned that were stricken have been replaced to align with state statute. So there is a state statute of a shade tree commission, and that just is laid out clearly in the updated ordinance.
Thank you very much. Councilman Fisher?
Is there, that's what I thought by reading it. Is there any?
Could you just use the microphone? Thank
Is
you.
there any changes at all in terms of responsibility at all? Like I read it and I thought that, so I was going to ask the question, but is there anything new or different?
There's nothing new. I think the way that certain things are phrased, like the first one, regulate the planting and care of shade and ornamental trees, blah, blah, blah. And then the new line is exercise full and exclusive control over, like, it's just the copied language from the state.
Got it. So from a power standpoint, it's substantially the same before.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen? Aye. Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Jean Tino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
Hearing on an ordinance amending Chapter 192, parking for persons with disabilities, to add and remove reserved and general spaces.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak?
No.
Oh, Ms. Waiters?
Hi, Pat Waiters. I have a quick question for Mr. Ramos, for the parking with persons with disability. I have a question. If you live on you might have a little more information than me. If you live on a county block, right, you got to go through the county, but isn't it after the county approved, the city is the one that install it, or do the counties?
I'm not 100% sure. I think it's the county. I'm not 100% sure.
Please, could you find out and let me see before I call?
I think it's the county. I'm not 100%
Call the
sure.
county engineer and bring my blocking school.
I know the county has to approve it after the city does approve it, but I'm not sure.
But who actually do the put
I
in
think
the?
it's the county. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll have to.
Please, and I'll follow up. Thank you, Ruben.
Are there any other members of the public signed up to speak? Motion to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council members? Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Aye. Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Jean Tino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
The hearing on an ordinance B614, an ordinance to rescind B610, and to suspend the parklet application process up and to including March 31st, 2024.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak?
Marie Markle.
Rose Markle?
So my question would be, on another item under the introduction and first reading, number 3 has the exact same thing. So is there a reason why?
It's not quite the same. It's my understanding, and I could be corrected by my colleague who sponsored the other item, but the item on for first reading is a removal, immediate removal and ban. So this would be a moratorium on anything that would be built new, but it keeps the existing. The first reading item is actually a removal of all existing.
This is the one affirming the City of Hoboken's commitment to maintaining a safe, clean...
That's a resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's this. It has the same wording. Is there a reason that we have it in 2 different spots?
It's a totally different resolution. I can explain that during that portion.
No, it has the same wording, though. All right.
But, I mean, they're related in terms of concept, but I can explain better what that is.
Council President, just one point. The introduction is not a ban on parklets. It's a removal, and then all establishments could reapply for a parklet. So it's not a full ban on parklets. It's just a removal over the winter months. That's only one of the introduced ordinances.
Semantics. Next, Mr.
Appreciate
Freenet.
way it is.
My question exactly what Rose just said, but I have one other thing. Is this still veto? It was voted, it was passed when I was here, then it was vetoed. So this is
Veto
not the
was
same language?
This is a different ordinance. So the veto was on an ordinance that was passed previously
Right.
at the last council meeting.
But what we getting confused with, when you keep saying the new one versus the old, if somebody been had one since pandemic, that's considered old. Those the ones we talking about removing. Now they could reapply, so at least some fresh, clean ones or whatever, right? And then wait for approval of this board.
So there's several items on the agenda tonight that involve parklets, but that's not what this is. This is a moratorium for any new parklets from now through 31st.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you then.
Manny Rivera Solas.
Good evening, Council President. Again, members of the public. Again, the same almost follow-up questions of the 2 prior members of the public. It is confusing. It does lend itself to misinterpretation by members of the public, by future persons who will want to do business in our city. I would like to know if you can clarify it a little bit better for the members of the public here present and at home, as well as the business owners, exactly as was mentioned, but we know that if you pass this today, it can be vetoed by 12 o'clock tomorrow. So can we have some certainty of what are the words, what are the languages, and how does it or will it impact B610, which I will discuss later, but this is why people have confusion. They don't want to come up here and point fingers. They just want clarity. Nobody wants to argue and spend time just coming here to speak words that nobody's going to listen to. So we appreciate you. We just appreciate an answer and clearing these up, because there are members of the public here who are really interested. Some people say that it's their livelihoods and stuff, so it is important. What are we banning? Why? How is the procedure to get back? All of these things. Thank you, Council President, for your attention, and council members.
Next speaker.
Edward Reap.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I feel like I understand what's going on with the different ordinances because based on a bunch of articles I read, but I don't want to misspeak anything that's not the case. So, but excuse me, sorry. But I will I will speak to what I understand about the ordinance that is up for vote, which is, I think it's the one that was spoken about at the last council meeting, which was to have like a 5-month moratorium on new parklet applications. But all the existing parklets get to stay, and then after the 5 months, folks will reassess. And the goal with that was to just kind of like see if the current laws that require better cleaning and maintenance of the parklets are able to make a difference with the rats. And in those laws, there's the potential that some parklets might be out of compliance and people might get fined or they might go away. But I think the idea was to just give the laws that were passed to improve the situation with the parklets a chance to be enforced and see how that goes. And it was kind of like a compromise thing, I think, that Mike DeFusco proposed at the last council meeting, to kind of say we're not banning the new parklets indefinitely, but we're also taking a pause to reassess. And I feel like my guess is that that's going to be pretty popular among everyone here, because it's kind of like saying, hey, we're not getting rid of the parklets and we're not permanently banning new ones. We're just taking a break, which everyone can agree with, compared to nothing. And then if we take a break, we can see if we can improve the rat situation with some additional steps like cleaning and mitigation with the parklets, which seems like a very reasonable compromise that will be very practical, that everyone can agree with. And then we'll talk, I guess, about those other parklet laws later. But my impression basically is that the ordinance you guys are thinking of, the ordinance that's going to come up to be voted on about the moratorium on the parklets is makes a lot of sense. Just don't have any new ones for a few months. Keep the existing ones. Everyone's got to make an effort to improve how they're maintaining the parklets or keep up the good work, like some restaurants that are already doing a great job. And then we'll see what happens, I think. So that sounds good. Yeah, but at the same time, though, if there's a really, 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 really good rat mitigation plan, and it's awesome, and I would, that could be compelling too. So we'll see what everyone says. But I think, I've been so rambling today. I'm really off my game. But anyway, you have a great day, guys.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Thank you.
Frank, excuse me, Frank Palmisano.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about the parklets, being an owner-operator of a restaurant in Hoboken. I have had issues with rats over the last, not the last 6 months, but from February through June of this past year, I caught 14 rats in and around my garbage area and stuff like that. I had my own plan. I didn't wait for anybody. I got on top of things. I covered all the holes, all little holes. I put out traps. I'm constantly spending money on baits. I haven't seen a rat since June, not one. However, everybody wants to say that the parklets are part of the rat problem. Maybe we are a little part. There's not one parklet west of Grant Street, not one. I've had rats run across my feet on Monroe Street. Where's your parklets? Where's the parklet? Not one. So can a restaurant owner or owners or managers, no one's going to run a restaurant like the owner, which I am. Anthony Pino, he runs his restaurant. He runs a good parklet. You have to keep them clean. I put fencing, gating around all the areas where they can get under. I covered my flooring so nothing could get through. I got cement in my basement. I also buy Contact. It's a poison. I rebait the boxes on the block. I did 700 Grand Street's shrubs. I did 702 Clinton Street's shrubs where there's holes. You could walk by them. You heard them rustling. You heard them rustling in the bushes back in May. I haven't seen one rat since June. You need a plan. If you want to get ahead of the rat problem, also, on 3rd and Clinton, not 3rd, on 6th and Clinton, the garbage. Now, I know they're moving the garbage, the city garage. 3 days, garbage sat in that bin. 3 days. Not one, not two, 3. So that's something that has to be addressed from the city level. You need more people on. You used to have the guys out with the cans pushing. I see them, but it's not enough. I've done my part. I run a good restaurant. I run a good, honest restaurant. That's all.
Thank you.
Looks like Kerry Lancy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here again for the third time as a traumatized resident living near restaurants. I don't not advocate for the parklets, but I do think that we all have to do our part to figure out a way to solve this issue. And it's not just the parklets, it's also the developers, it's also the residents. It's also that there's not enough garbage pickup. We only have garbage 3 nights a week. So in addition to mitigating the parklets better, figuring out ways to clean them, figuring out ways to either get rid of them temporarily and bring them back in a better designed way that's cleanable on a more daily basis, that's practical. Residents will accept that, but we can't accept living like this anymore. I can't. I live in a basement apartment in a hot spot for 3 years. So maybe this gentleman's restaurant has been cleaned up. That's great. I appreciate that he's made the effort, and I appreciate any restaurant that's making the effort. But it's not fixing the problem. It's not just the parklets. It's everything. It's all of us. And you all have to, you have to take care of everyone that lives here, not just the businesses, the residents, the people that live here, the people that visit here. I have friends that want to come visit and they won't because it's a rat infestation now. So you all know the problem. I've come 3 times now. I have friends that say, why bother? They're not hearing you. It's a waste of time. I do want to thank Councilwoman Fisher for reaching out publicly and making some action last week. I really appreciated that, having someone listen to us as residents that are traumatized by this. And I really hope that those of you that are reelected are going to do what you say your plans are for this issue, particularly you, Councilman Russo. I would really appreciate that. I know that the residents will work with you to help solve this. I also believe that the residents have to do a better job taking care of their garbage. I literally see them every night in front of my window. I cannot sleep at night, and I can't live like this anymore. It's ridiculous. And it is partly the parklets. I know that's not all of it, but it's part of it. For those of you at home that are watching, I hope that you all get out and vote next week, because next week, all of you are going to be either reelected or someone's going to take your place. And hopefully, the next people, or those of you that are coming back, are going to do better to solve this issue. It's a public health crisis. We all live with this, including the restaurants. So let's all do our part to solve it. It's not something that can't be solved. Hoboken is 1 mile square. It's small. We can do this if everybody does their part. You have to invest in this. I don't care how much it costs. It has to be solved. It can't just be serving the business community. You have to serve the residents equally, not one over the other, equally. Okay? That's all I want to say. I'm tired of coming and asking. I feel like it's on deaf ears at this point. But it's really traumatizing for many people that live here. And many people are speaking up on social media about it, but they don't want to waste their time to come here because nothing's changing. So please do your part and serve your constituents, not just the businesses. Thank you.
Owen Finnegan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Owen Finnegan, and I own Finnegan's Pub on 8th and Willow. I've owned Finnegan's Pub with my wife, Monica. We've owned Finnegan's Pub for 10 years. Removing parklets is not the answer to the rat problem. I'll just start off with some facts. Every month, I pay $849 to the city of Hoboken. Over a year, it's over $10,000. I was one of the ones we were one of the last businesses to build the parklet after everybody had streeteries, and even I had a streetery, and we just found that it wasn't safe. So we built one. We followed all the city rules and procedures. I submitted a $5,000 bond to the city of Hoboken just for emergencies if it has to be removed. So I do assume by removing my parklet, the city will use my $5,000 for that. I also spent $3,000 on architectural drawings needed for zoning. We decided, my wife and I decided to invest in this because we were concerned for the safety of our customers. Having like a streetery with like bollards was just not a safe structure. So after talking with a contractor and getting everything, it was a costly adventure. but with saying that it was worth it because at the time the city said, you know, you can have them until 2025. So we're like, okay, they may not be permanent, but worth the investment. I'm there every day. I run a business just like the other guys in the room that have parklets and run them well. This is all we do. We're there every day. My last fact I would like to say is that a lot of my customers are residents. They love this. They love the parklets. They love eating out. They like enjoying each other's company. And it's a neighborhood thing. And the majority of the people that I'm with are residents. They don't know about anything that's happening until I put up signs to say, please, guys, pay attention, or else it's going to be gone. Okay? Now, so I would like to continue with a few comments. When you say banning or putting a pause, let's just remove them and put them away for a month or two and then bring them back. It's just like, that does not make sense. In order for me to put the parklet back, will cost me $25,000. And we're just not going to do that. So put them away every winter and then bring them out in the spring, like just magic. We'll take them out of our pockets and put them back up. Ridiculous. The solution is more garbage pickup. If the parklet goes away, I will have to let some employees go. There has to be a better solution than removing parklets. It is not the problem with the rats. What else? Diamond Gymnastics. My neighbors, beautiful people, residents, moms, dads. They use my parklet to take shelter from the rain when they're picking up the children. Otherwise, they'd be blocking the whole sidewalk. I mean, there's so many advantages to having parklets. All the residents want it, and there's just a handful of people that think that rats, the parklets, cause the rat infestation, when the answer is just more garbage pickup. Thank you very much.
Anthony Pino.
Good evening, everybody, and happy to be here to speak upon the parklets for community of Hoboken and even for myself. Just like as Owen had said, the parklets are not the issue. Obviously, trash comes from everywhere, not just restaurants. People, businesses, and just the transient people coming through. As Owen had said, he keeps this place very clean. And as we're talking about removing the parklets, but also keeping food off the streets, but Acme, again, has 2,000 pumpkins sitting on their doorstep. At the end of the day, it's still food for the rats, okay? So it would take an initial investment for everybody to remove the food off the streets. Street cleaners, power washing as an overall to all the businesses. You walk down the streets, I don't care if it's a dry cleaners, this and that, there's transient people coming through, businesses, everyone has grease on their feet. Everything needs to be power washed, including the street up to a certain point. Just the removal of dirt and debris, that counts, but you really need to remove like the grease and grime and so forth. At our restaurants, we power wash every week. Our parklets, we put up gates 3 years ago. You cannot get into our thing. You cannot get into below our parklets. I had a health inspection last Thursday. We put in 12 to 15 hatches to look underneath my side of the parklet that had been 14. I had Brian, the health inspector, look under there. I said, because I was finishing up, I said, can you just, while you're here, he reviewed the space, and he said, I don't see any activity. There's no droppings. There is no break in any of the fabric of the wood. Everything's maintained well. And he asked, I see some broken glass, no food. And I said, the broken glass was when we built the place 3 years ago from the guys drinking. So our parklets are very, very cleaned, organized, power washed. When you walk by, you'll see the repairs made with new wood. you'll see there's no food and debris on our streets, on our pavers at all. That goes along with Madison too. We work very hard to keep a clean establishment. Being in the business, that's what it's about. A clean restaurant, clean, you want to attract people. If it's messy and dirty, people aren't going to come. I have a bunch of staff here that are here to support this. 30% of my business comes from the parklet at both of my locations. We work hard to maintain it and to attract people. People come to our places because of the parklet. Food, beer, yeah, that's all it. Good customer service, a clean place, a nice place to dine. And some of the times, that's a few and far between here in town. You have more, let's just call it, fast food, more light bites and something. You want to come dine, you come to the people here that are representing themselves here, because it is very important to us. It is our livelihood and how we live. I live here. I have staff that lives here. My kids work at both restaurants. It's really important to us that we keep the parklets, do a moratorium, keep the parklets. And I know there's something out there, I have to review it, but like if it's not done by this certain time, $2,000 fine, and you got to take it down. I know a few people that are not here tonight, they could care less. They're like, you know what? Really don't care. I'll let it go anyway. So I had spoken to them, and another one of my colleagues, they're ready to take them down. Because if you're not willing to put in the money to make them clean, organized, safe, do what's requested by the city, and as we're all here to talk about how we can work together to make this work for everybody. And we do agree that there is a problem. Some places much worse than others. But it does take, the parklets are not the issue. It is just a full, all on board, every business organization to keep things going. More trash pickup, cleaner streets, lids on trash cans, just better organization, better cleanliness. That doesn't get them away. You still need to do exactly what I know we're talking about, doing some gases to keep them out and kill them and so forth, electricity, those types of things where you can electrocute them. And this isn't a joke. It's not like, oh, we're going to have them so they kind of don't reproduce a few months later. No, this is serious. Kill them as much as we can, get them out. I'm not there to pet you. Put them in a trash can, move them out. But so I want to say thank you for listening to what I have to say. It's important that we keep these moving. For my location, some people work differently. We don't serve one day a year, Christmas Day. We serve all year, outside, heat, ready for business, ready to make our customers happy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Roxanne Early. Roxanne.
Hi, guys. Good to see you again. I want to thank the entire body for moving quickly to come up with an ordinance that is time-gated, that's a temporary moratorium so that we can talk about the issues at hand and collaborate on the solutions for them, both the planning and execution of an outdoor dining program that works for businesses and residents, and a comprehensive rodent mitigation plan that addresses the issues at hand in Hoboken. I really look forward, and I genuinely mean that, I'm kind of a policy nerd, I really look forward to working with you to get this right. I also want to address some concerns that I've heard from the council and from the community about the business community's approach and our investment in a rodent-free Hoboken. We have $139,000 invested in explicit rodent mitigation strategies. These include city bin containers and extermination services. We have been baiting in 192 catch basins, an entry point into Hoboken. And related, we also have $400,000 in our clean team, who are doing 15-hour shifts a day, 7 days a week, picking up trash all over Hoboken. But we can do more, and we want to. So I'm pleased to tell you tonight that we are doubling our investment in city bins. This month, we'll be rolling out 14 new bins in strategic locations throughout the city, including rodent hotspots, where they will be most effective at keeping garbage off of the street and therefore out of rodent bellies. We are pivoting our extermination plan. We'll be moving entirely into treating burrows in tree pits on the Gateway North, Gateway South, 1st Street, Washington Street, 14th Street, and the Path Station. On Monday, we began a temporary dusk service to remove illegally placed trash from Washington Street. This helps to reduce food sources on Washington Street during rodent activity during the night, and before Cali carting can get in. We provide reports on those illegal dumping locations to the city so that they can better guide and target their enforcement. Over the last 7 days, we've cracked open 6 parklet structures to take a look. I want to know. I want to be able to stand here confidently and tell you what I am seeing. We did not see rats, we did not see food waste, and we did not find feces. This leads me to conclude that the contribution of parklets to Hoboken's rodent problems may not be as substantial as we think. So, to better coordinate our efforts and understand how we make decisions about what we're doing, I'd really like to understand how many complaints have we received about rodents? What percentage of those are related to food service establishments or any other business or any other land use? And parklets specifically, of course. I've talked to our exterminator. He let me know that rodents typically dine within 150 feet of their burrows, so I'd like to know what's within 150 feet of the burrows that we're finding and the violations, or the complaints that we're getting. Then I'd like to know what's being done about that. How are we inspecting? How are we following up? What violations are we issuing? What the consequences are? Those answers will help us work together to collectively and strategically tackle the issue, be it a parklet, be it a rain garden, be it any other business or building or site in Hoboken. We can deliver our resources coordinated together into those places. The legislation that aims at removing parklets won't address that issue. It will lead to layoffs in the community, and it will lead to a contraction of our businesses during a really crucial holiday season. As you heard, owners pay rent for these. Owners live, work, and hire residents here in Hoboken. They've made business plans based on the permanency of the outdoor dining program established by law. Losing them now, even temporarily, won't provide the benefit that outweighs the cost. So we thank you again, and we urge you to support this temporary moratorium. We really look forward to working with you during the winter, and we strongly urge you against the idea of a temporary ban and removal of existing park structures or banning decks that won't deliver a comprehensive result. By working together, we can address rodent issues strategically for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, motion to close public portion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So yes, there are, to circle back to the beginning of this, there are several different items on the agenda, but just for clarity of this conversation, B614 that we're voting on and discussing now is the moratorium so that there will be no new parklets approved or processed from now through March 31st. And the item that's on under resolutions, to the question that was asked earlier, which is CL3, is kind of a spirit resolution, which basically is considered, not as binding as an ordinance necessarily, but it codifies the idea that this 5-month moratorium would be for purposes of having a really thoughtful, coordinated discussion about what design guideline changes could be made so that any new parklets that would be coming forward would follow new standards in terms of preventing harborage of rodents or any sort of, design flaws that could inadvertently lead to infestations. That is kind of, as some of the speakers have mentioned, that's not necessarily the case for all of the parklets. Some were done certainly more thoughtfully and with these sorts of design guidelines in place. But it would give us this 5-month period to make sure that we're working together, have a chance to bring all the stakeholders to the table, the HBA, the city, any of the folks who are involved in the rodent mitigation efforts, residents, that it could be a thoughtful process over the next several months so that by the time we get to the point of having this conversation, we've had the opportunity to kind of think through and really process what changes we could make legislatively to those design guidelines. So apologies if that wasn't made clear before, but I just want to make sure we're all kind of on the same page about this particular item. But maybe I'll start with the sponsors if you want to address the moratorium item B614. I don't know, Councilman DeFusco, Councilman Cohen, do you want to start off with any comments?
Yeah. Listen, I'm so proud to have worked with Councilwoman Giattino back during the height of the pandemic to advocate for what we saw in Europe, what we saw in really progressive cities across this country pre-pandemic, which was parklets. We know that people want to enjoy a day outside, eating at their favorite neighborhood restaurant. They're proven to work outside of a COVID epidemic. pandemic. Where I think the problem came from is that the city all around wanted what was best for the business community. And when I say the city, I mean the mayor, I mean this council, and I still believe that. Everybody in elected office, the Hoboken Business Alliance, truly cared about seeing businesses thrive, and they did because of the legislation that Councilman Giattino and I worked on with the mayor. Now we're in a new era, right? We're in an era where people have become used to streets that aren't just for cars, streets that work for us all. And part of that, in my opinion, is parklets, and that's why at the last meeting, I was compelled to find an in-between solution. I don't agree with the HBA that they don't harbor rats. I actually believe they do. I have not had the chance to look under them myself, but I've seen them running underneath them. However, the full elimination of them completely harms the business community. And I also, like, I'm just reading the room here, like, to the woman who said, we're going to win elections or lose elections. I come from a place that I decided not to run for re-election because I want to use my energies to do what's right for the city in other capacities as well. So I'm speaking as a politician, but as a politician that doesn't have anything to lose from casting the vote where it belongs. So what I see here is the entire council, whether it's Councilman Russo with his legislation, Councilwomen Giattino and Fisher with their legislation, or my compromise legislation with Councilman Cohen. I think everybody's interest is actually seeing parklets continue, and I get the fear that you hear because, but my read on this, honestly, is that we're coming to a compromise. Now, the legislation that I've put up is the one I'm still remaining in support of, which is a 5-month moratorium while design standards are put into place. We've had some preliminary conversation about what those design standards could be, reviews by the zoning office, building materials, architectural reviews. There's going to be additional steps and checks that restaurants are going to have to, go through, but they'll be to benefit the neighborhoods that they work and operate in. I don't think that somebody like the Pino family that spent, I remember visiting Anthony like with masks on and being interviewed by the news, and we had a 10-foot pole because that was, like the early days pandemic. I was there with the mayor and Anthony, and we were talking, and he was so proud of the patio he was building. And I was just walking by there last night, and it was joyous with all the trick-or-treaters, and it just created a neighborhood atmosphere. So I don't think that folks like Anthony should have to take it down either. That was a great cost to them. But I think that once we set the design standards and once we continue, 5 months moratorium, everyone relax, it's the winter, we're not eating outside anyway. Come this spring, there'll be design standards, and then we can decide, businesses can decide if they want to pay the cost of a parklet or if they don't. And I think it's going to be a fair conversation. So I'm saying this to calm everyone down because I hope that the moratorium passes. Everyone leaves their existing parklets, no new parklets over the cold winter, and then it's just going to be readdressed by a new council in the new year. And then I'll sit on that side of the aisle with you all, and I could use a lot more vicious words, a lot more, and hold my current colleagues accountable if I don't see what they're promising, what we're all promising to you right now. So that's where I'd like this to be. I see so many concerned faces, and I would be too if I were in your seat. So I urge the council to support the moratorium, to work with the HBA and the communities that parklets are in to create design standards that work, and to fulfill the vision that myself and Councilwoman Giattino had, which is a truly unique opportunity for this special city to enjoy outdoor dining in a way that works for everyone. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Council President. We passed this 5-month moratorium unanimously, my recollection, and I hope that it passes unanimously again tonight. I agree with Councilman DeFusco. I think this is a good compromise, but I also think it's important to recognize that there probably aren't a lot of people who want to open a new streetery over the winter months. I think if you were going to make the investment to have a new streetery, you'd probably wait until springtime to do that. So I think it's unlikely that there's going to be some business I haven't heard from any businesses that said they were hoping to open up a streetery in December. I do think having the moratorium until March 31st is a good compromise, and it gives us an opportunity to see if we can do better with respect to design. But I want to just focus on what we passed back in September. Anthony Pino mentioned it. The idea that we passed on September 20th, which went into effect immediately, we waived the estoppel period. Usually it takes 20 days, but we said this goes into effect immediately, and we've been discussing it for about 45 days, that if you can keep your parklets clean, you can keep your parklets. You can keep them. If you can't keep them clean, you're subject to first offense, $500 fine, second offense, $1,000 fine, with a 10-day license suspension, so you can't serve for 10 days. Second offense, $2,000 fine plus license revocation. You lose your streetery. Third offense. Okay. So what do you have to do? And this is in effect right now, immediately. Just want to go over it because I think it's important, because the real concern here is cleanliness. You have to have daily inspection of the outdoor spaces, planters, and any adjacent street pits to assure they're clean and there's no food residue. You also have to produce evidence of compliance with all these requirements below if the health officer comes by. 2, daily broom cleaning and washing of all outdoor dining areas, including sidewalks and curbs. All dining areas should be washed with soap and water or a 10% bleach solution. 3, clean up and dispose of any spilled food immediately. 4, schedule regular extermination inspection and treatment of the dining area and nearby trees. The extermination schedule and service contract shall be made available to the Hoboken health officer upon request. This is in effect right now. Where feasible, power wash the sidewalks and underneath platforms on a regular basis to flush out any food and rodents and discourage rodent nesting beneath the platforms. Where power washing is not feasible, other reasonable attempts to flush out food and any rodents and discourage their nesting beneath platforms should be used. In all instances, remove any standing water. Within 60 days. Now, within 60 days, we passed this October 20th. 60 days is 18 days from now, November 19th. By November 19th,
My husband's birthday.
happy birthday to Joe. Within 60 days of ordinance passage, provide the health officer with plans regarding modifications to dining structures to prevent pests based on the fact that any empty space or voids created by the dining structure can become a harborage for rodents, including gaps underneath space inside the walls of structures. These areas must be available for inspection and cleaning. So if you have a gap, if you have a space and you don't have a solution for it, you have to present it to the city by Joe's birthday on November 18th. November 19th, sorry. 18 days, November 19th. And that could include constructing a hinge trap door, leaving walls open between the studs, if burrow holes. It goes on in details. I don't want to bore you anymore. But the point is that we took this seriously on September 20th. We put it into immediate effect. And it's important. So to the extent that the moratorium exists, every one of these existing parklets are under this regime. They have to, okay? And if they have those gaps, they have to have that plan. It has to be submitted. So, some people suggested that, I think Councilwoman Giattino mentioned at the last council meeting, that some parklet operators, some restaurant operators were not able to keep their parklets clean, and they decided to do away with them. That was the choice that they made because they couldn't do it. Clearly, the owners that are here tonight, the operator here tonight, many of whom are residents of Hoboken. I think everyone who spoke here tonight was a resident, but there are some who haven't spoken who I know are, including people who I represent proudly. I think it's a false choice to say that we have to choose between businesses and residents. First of all, the business owners are residents, and second, the residents enjoy these things. And third, I wanted to say something else. There was a suggestion at the last council meeting that somehow the Business Alliance was not representing the residents. I think the lie was put to that suggestion tonight. If you listen to what was said by Roxanne Early, the executive director, the investment that's being made in rat mitigation, in trash collection, in working with the business community and coordinating and with the city to enhance and work with Director Gonzalez and the Department of Environmental Services is real, is significant. And she's the only person who mentioned looking underneath a streetery to see what she saw. She said she saw nothing with respect to the 6 that was suspect or concerning. That lends credence to the fact that the people who are operating these parklets are operating them responsibly. And again, if they're not, they will either be fined or have to have their operation suspended for 10 days. And for a business who relies on this income, that's a significant penalty, or lose it altogether, which is a significant investment that they've made that they want to protect. And again, Anthony Pino mentioned that they were promised when they were built that they could keep them until 2025. They made a business decision. We've heard from a number of business owners that have come to the microphone at this meeting and prior meetings that people make investments, put their lifetime savings and put their earnings and hard work, sweat, and tears into these businesses in reliance on representations that the city made to them when they made those investments, that they would be able to operate under that rubric when they made their applications, when they got their approvals. It's only fair that we honor those commitments. So I think that that is not necessarily relevant to the moratorium. We'll be voting on other things later tonight, but I just wanted people to know my views on these issues, and I thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
I'll try to be brief. I'll try. First, to one of the speakers mentioned that she doesn't know why she keeps coming because it seems to fall on deaf ears, and also that the city's doing nothing. Did want to push back a little bit on that. First of all, we always encourage folks to come and express their minds and their opinions on how things should be done. There's a difference between not hearing you and not agreeing on the solution. And I think that's what we're seeing in this instance with respect to some folks. Some folks will believe that the solution to the rat situation, as we call it, and I'm thinking of a very fun Halloween costume for next year, I think Jersey Shore with the rat situation. And what we're planning on doing is going through a comprehensive approach to solving this, and not going to extreme measures and trying to think methodically about walking through the answer here. There has been a lot of confusion as to what's going on with parklets, so I do want to give a brief overview as to the chronology as I've seen it, and I wasn't around for all of it. There's a lot of confusion. This is supposed to be for COVID. We hear this over and over and over. So here's my brief chronology of events. COVID happened. The city allowed for parklets so that people could dine outside more safely. Correct. Before my time. COVID more or less subsided. People liked parklets, liked dining outside. I like parklets and like dining outside. And so during my time, we moved to make these parklets permanent. I seem to recall that most of the pushback at the time was around parking spaces and not rodents. There was some rodent talk, but it was mostly on you're taking away these parking spaces permanently. Okay, so then now the rat invasion happens or gets much worse. Fast forward about a year, and maybe a month or two ago, we passed a ordinance stepping up cleanliness requirements on parklets to address or help address the rat situation. And Councilman Cohen went through the requirements there. A couple of weeks ago, and this is the ordinance that the mayor vetoed, there was an ordinance that passed to ban new parklets, not existing parklets. That was what the mayor banned. Today, we are going to hopefully pass on second reading an ordinance which would put a moratorium on new parklets until March. During time, which we're calling for in the resolution, the city will go and work with all the stakeholders, HBA, residents, council, experts, on design guidelines for new parklets, which would be more rodent-proof. And then, to add to the confusion, we have a couple more ordinances on for first reading today. One calling for the removal of existing parklets, the other one calling for the removal of planks on existing parklets. So a lot of moving parts. That's, I think, beginning to end where we see it. It's really confusing because sometimes we don't work in a coordinated fashion. I think we're making a lot of efforts now to really reinforce that we should and that we are, which is why the resolution that's on for later is critically important, that we pass it to show unified front to say, you know what, enough's enough of these one-off ordinances, enough of these kind of reactionary things. Let's get together, let's talk about what the actual practical solutions should be that is the best thing for the majority of the city. And when I say that, I mean residents, businesses, visitors, everything that makes this city great. Let's not destroy something that we all love, because it is an element of the solution when there is another thing that we can do which would be just as effective but keep that benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So when COVID first hit and we all thought this was going to be 2 weeks, I remember I was like, how do I keep the restaurants alive for these 2 weeks? And I set up a program I actually ordered from you. One of them, what was your cheapest meal? What cost you the least amount of money to make? And I'll take 83 of them. And I did that actually all through COVID with every restaurant that I possibly could. Not me personally. I asked friends to join in with me and do it. And we fed the gentleman at the YMCA. And then one day I hear about Tampa doing these parklets, and I reach out to Councilman DeFusco, and I'm like, this is amazing. You know, the restaurants are starting to open back up, but they can't have indoor dining. This would be so great if we could do this in Hoboken. This could help them get through the pandemic. My whole goal was, how do I get businesses through the pandemic? I was on the Hoboken Relief Fund co-chairing it with Councilman Cohen. But recently, we can all say that the parklets didn't cause the rodent problem, and I think everyone agrees with that, but they do enable it. We all know they enable it. And my ordinance that I put forward at the last council meeting is so similar to this, and I love this ordinance tonight. I will be 100% supportive of it alongside the resolution. I'm happy that there was a compromise made and we can move forward and I just don't think we need to be adding more parklets, and this doesn't do that at the moment. So I am happy to support this ordinance.
Thank you. Councilman Fisher?
Yep, thanks. As people know, one of my favorite hashtags is more voices. More voices are always better. And, you know, the fact that we're all up here tonight, we're getting closer to working together on this issue is a direct result of the fact that we have more people in the community that have been reaching out, expressing concern over this, raising. My colleague here is sighing once again. He must be irritated with what I'm saying. But just raising this issue and putting it in front of all of us and causing us to act. You know, I give kudos to Councilman Giattino, who actually put the first piece of legislation up regarding the parklets. And guess what? That brought the HBA to the table. And I loved everything that Roxanne said tonight. I led the process to hire Roxanne. I think she's a great asset, for our city. But she and I had some words a few weeks ago. It was incredibly frustrating when, our city is plagued with rats and the HBA wasn't stepping up first and saying, we're going to bring all of our businesses together and be part of the solution. So now they are, and they are because of all the public that comes and says, this is a public health crisis, the people that are living here. And it doesn't affect everyone the same. I can tell you, in the second ward, there's plenty of areas in the second ward where we're just not seeing it. And people are saying, why is this a big issue? I don't see it. But it is in a lot of places. We know that there are hot spots across the city. I've talked to the Environmental Services Department about how we figure out a better way of targeting these hot spots. And I think that's consistent with what, some people raised tonight, where it's not all parklets that are contributing to this. There are some hot spots, right? This is all about raising awareness and having the right eyes and the right advocacy, the right groups of people looking at it the right way. And when you look at the people in this room, we're all getting closer to looking at it the right way. So I definitely am supportive of the moratorium. As Councilman Giattino just mentioned, really is no different than the ban on future ones. The ban on future ones just didn't have an end date. We could have put an end date in the future. The moratorium has an end date on it, and if we're not ready, we can always extend it, but they effectively do the same thing. I am supportive of the resolution because the resolution that everyone's mentioning is really about, the language in the resolution is really about all of us working together as a community, and it's the first time. So it's, I think it sends the right message. We have to stand behind it, and we just have to keep working together. And, I think it was great to hear, Anthony tonight. I just had an event there, and I eat at Bin 14 once a week, maybe once every other week or 2 out of every 3. A lot of great ideas. And I think, I think as we have more voices in this, as we have more restaurants, as we have more business owners, property owners, residents coming up to the table, we're all going to be better equipped to address this. So anyway, I just want to thank everyone, and I hope this isn't the last time that you come, just because if this rules in your favor tonight, the worst thing that you can do is walk out of this room high-fiving, saying we won and we don't have to do anything. Because if you don't do anything, we're going to be back here a month from now, right? We need everyone's help, and we need everyone to step up and give these ideas, sit around the table that Council President and Jabor and Councilman Quintero just mentioned. We need that table, and we need all, more voices, more input from everyone to address this so it just doesn't get worse. One thing I do want to just throw out there is an observation. So as Kelly mentioned, Councilman Ramos and I walked around last Sunday night across the southern part of Hoboken with one of those rat dog groups. This guy who brought a dog. We actually didn't see any rats walking across the city until we got to Pier A, and they are all over Pier A. And we caught them, and I held the leash and actually held the dog when he caught one. It was gross. But one of the observations that I'll throw out there for the HBA and whoever is it's the late night bar crowd that is doing a lot of this, right? Like the bar crowd comes out of the bars, they eat their pizza, they throw their pizza on the ground. You can just see it everywhere. And it's that time when our code enforcement officers aren't working. And so that kind of between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., like we talked to we talked to 2 Hoboken police officers, and they're like, it is a feeding frenzy from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. So, that's something we should think about how to enforce. But the reality is, from an HBA standpoint, what can these pizza places and the late night food places downtown around our bars, what can they do to stop that from happening? Because that's what you see, and that's what's contributing down to like Pier A and that whole like Southern Court Street, Southern Washington, and around any of those businesses that are open late at night. And that would be, is our police chief here? He's not. So I would encourage in this group talking with the police department and the overnight, the officers that work overnight, and having them be part of it, because they actually see the activity when they drive around. It was incredible for them to like tell us where they see it, and we should be thinking about that, because that's when the rats actually do a lot of their eating. So anyway, thanks everyone for coming, and let's just keep the conversation going. #more voices are always better. Thanks.
Councilman Doyle.
Thank you, Council President. I think a lot has been said tonight. I will be brief. I support this moratorium. I don't really know what the difference between a ban with an end date and a moratorium is, but I think the fact that come April 1st, it won't require us to act.
Wait, that's another important day in my life. That's my wedding anniversary. Just tonight is like
April Fool's Day?
Yeah. If we wanted to call it off, we could have just said it was a joke.
But I just wanted to add one postscript, and that is, I think it was unfair to say that we've done nothing and this has fallen on deaf ears. As Councilman Quintero said, just because we haven't solved the problem yet doesn't mean we're not trying to. And to that point, there was a resolution on tonight authorizing the city to procure rodent and pest control. So we're getting bids or solicitations for more activity. It's not going to be solved overnight, but I think that and the September 20th cleaning program, these are all things that we're trying. And I am very sympathetic. I can imagine the horror, the terror of if you were in the situation. So I'm empathetic. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, just to add, Councilman Fisher mentioned this about the overnight, which is definitely a concern. I think all of us have seen those pictures. The salary ordinance that's on for first reading addresses hiring of additional investigators for exactly that purpose. So to Councilman Doyle's point, there are a number of items on this agenda that are trying to address this in all the different ways. So, Councilman Ramos.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate Councilwoman Fisher's comments that more voices are better, because apparently my one voice wasn't good enough. When we first started talking about rodents in town, I was talking about skunks. Hey guys, there's skunks. They want to see these skunks. No, not in my neighborhood. Well, they're my neighborhood. There's skunks. Like, then it was, guys, there's raccoons. Anyone see raccoons? No, we don't see them. Nothing we do about the raccoons. Rosie, remember, right? Then, hey guys, there's rats. We don't see rats uptown. We don't see rats in this area. I see rats. There's rats. There's rats. Right? Councilman Doyle, the first time we sponsored extermination fee was myself, Councilman Doyle, Councilman Gentino. Right? I didn't support the permanency of the parklets because there was no plan. The plan was there was no plan to maintain it. There's rats. There was no plan. Now, 3.5 years later, there's a plan. There's a plan. So I hope this plan works. All right? But for 3 years, we've been talking about this. I've been talking about this. So I'm glad the more voices are now working. So hopefully, when your kids walk down the street, they don't see rats. Right? I have a son with special needs. He loves eating outside because inside's too loud for him. But when he's eating outside, he sees a rat. So, Dad, I'm not eating. Can't eat. Can't eat. Right? That's what happens to kids with special needs. So I did not support the permanency of it. I'm hoping that together we can try to get our heads around this because, I know, I grew up here. There were rats. I always lived on the west side of town. There were always little things around, but not like this. This is a whole new level of it. This is a whole new level of it. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Right? But now that they're uptown, let's do something about it. They're midtown, let's do something about it. Downtown, I don't see it. I don't see it. So I hope this winter we roll our sleeves up and try and really address the problem. I think we're $500,000 in exterminating fees now. So hopefully they seriously, I don't know, the exterminators that we hired stunk, I guess, but hopefully do a better job going forward because this needs to end.
Thank you.
Council
Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. Let me first start with the question to the business administrator. How many health inspectors do we have on right now?
4.
4 health inspectors. You heard a lot of red herrings here tonight, a lot of them. The parklets or the removal of parklets might be about parking. Okay, we'll address that. You've heard we don't want to be reactionary over 3.5 years, but we don't want to be reactionary at this point. I don't think that's reactionary. We heard about how we made changes that now we have 4 health inspectors have to go out every day to make sure our parklets are being cleaned, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. What's also funny to me is that the parklets, under our current zoning law, were never supposed to be permanent. They're supposed to be movable structures. Says it before any changes were made. Go ask the brass rail. When there was street construction, they had to remove their parklet. You know why? Because it's supposed to be movable. They were always supposed to be movable. They were never supposed to be permanent structures. What we're talking about now is trying to find the solution to a very specific problem in the city of Hoboken. That's our rodents. We have rodents all over the city. You heard Councilman Ramos, rats. They're everywhere. And if anyone in this room wants to kid themselves to say that parklets are not a part of the problem, they're kidding themselves. We're not saying they're all of the problem. I agree with pretty much everything that was said by the business owners. Garbage pickup needs to increase, absolutely. The rat burrows need to take care of them, absolutely. The business owners are taking some responsibility, but what about the ones that aren't? Do we ignore them because the ones that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? How do we handle that? The ones that aren't doing it, do we just go and demolish their parklets? We cannot legislate for those that are actually complying with the law. We have to legislate for those that are not. And I understand that that sucks for the ones that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But we have a rodent problem in this city. We need to address it. It needs to be swift. I can't wait for 3 different times that a health inspector has to go out to inspect a parklet and find them 3 different times before we could actually remove the problem. We don't have that time. So to remove all the red herrings that got some of the people here today, it's a ban on parklets. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a removal of the problem. If you don't want to remove the whole parklet, because this is an underhanded way to get more parking, don't remove the whole parklet. Leave it right where it is. Cut the damn floor out. Cut the floor out so we could sweep the street. Power wash the street. Get rid of the rodents. All the red herrings were addressed. All of them. You could keep your parklets. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with not being able to get to the street and clean it. Because for however long that parklet has been in existence, that street hasn't been cleaned. Our street sweeper can't drive down the block and clean that street. If there's a water main break, what are you going to do with your parklet? It's got to go. It's got to be moved. We need to change how we're dealing with them. No one is asking the city to totally ban them. So anyone who told you that to get you here tonight lied to you. They lied to you. Anyone who's saying this is reactionary, they lied to you. This is 3.5 years in the making. It's really, really sad that people are pitting each other against each other, right? It's sad in the city. We have an issue we need to deal with. I've been trying to get with Roxanne for now 2 weeks, and unfortunately we haven't been able to sit down and talk about it because she's been busy the times that I'm busy and so on and so forth. But we will speak, and she's stepping up. She's doing some of the things that we need to do. I want her to do more. But we need to do something to finish what we started in eliminating the rodent problem. And if anyone in this room thinks removing decking from a parklet is banning a parklet, wow, they are sorely, sorely mistaken. This needs to be done now. We can't wait. Because if we wait, in the spring, we'll be having the same conversation. And then all those restaurants are going to have a real big problem when people want to eat outside. Thank you, Council President.
Sure. Any other comments? Well, so I did call it a ban. So maybe that comment was for me. I didn't lie to anyone, though, because my concern was what was being proposed is the removal of structures that people worked very hard to put in place. And it was done so for the beautification of this city. I love that Hoboken has beautiful structures like the one at Anthony David's and the one at Il Tavolo. And I love that those restaurant owners, who are also residents, take such wonderful, pristine care. I see Frank out there, I don't know if he's still here, every morning. Every morning he cares for the beautiful plants that are hanging. He's baiting for rodents. He showed me exactly where he sees them because he cares about our neighborhood. And he's part of the solution because we all need to be working together. And so when the concept that all of those beautiful structures had to be ripped out was being put forward, that's concerning to me. And I think it's concerning to you all as owners of those businesses. So I don't think I lied to anyone. I think that is my understanding of the policy before us. I think what we're voting on right now for B614, the moratorium, is a thoughtful way of making sure that we are all working together. Because what I don't want to have happen is for these parklets to be the focus of all of the rodent issues for the city, because they're not. They're just not. And I know that because we see them in areas all across the city, and it has nothing to do with the parklets in certain portions and neighborhoods of this city. And I know that the city has been working around the clock to try and get things in place, like more inspectors, like different hours for inspectors, making sure that we have sufficient staff to handle the reports coming in from residents, because residents want to be part of the solution. We all have to work together to do so. But the idea that somehow removing these structures is suddenly going to cause a magic golden bullet for this issue, it's just false. I'm looking forward to the fact that this moratorium provides us the opportunity to revisit the design guidelines. I know, having spoken to Roxanne, she has experience working with New York City and the process that they undertook around design guidelines. And so I'm looking forward to her experience being brought to bear, to hear from residents, to hear from business owners, so that we can spend the next 5 months looking forward about what makes the most sense. And to the extent that we need to retrofit any of the existing, I think our business owners would be willing to come to the table and have that conversation as well. The sanitation guidelines and regulations that were passed in September, as have been mentioned, will make a difference. There are real penalties there. If you hit people on the bottom line and they can't run because their license is revoked, which Councilman Cohen mentioned, that's a real penalty. So these are not this is real accountability. We're not looking the other way. Yeah. So I really appreciate all of the efforts. Thank you, Roxanne, for articulating much of the changes, the way that the HBA is stepping up, because I do think the containerizing efforts, if you look at the corner of 10th and Park, for example, outside of Saku, they have one of those more structured bins. I know that's been a real help in that neighborhood. I walk through there every morning. So I'm really hopeful that we can all come together to collaborate and not focus maybe on the semantic differences here. So, Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen? Aye. Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
D'Antino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes. Public comment on agenda items. Mr. Farina, who do we have signed up?
Resolution, Rosemary Markle.
Now I could just go through all of them, right? I don't
Sure.
have to. Okay.
Any of the agenda items? Yep.
All right. So let me see. I'm going to start with the claims. I see that we paid for city barbecue. Maybe instead of doing that, we should hire some men or women who would like to go around with garbage cans to pick up the garbage, because they seem to have disappeared in the wind. And then I have a question about the Liberty Humane Society. Is that for work that's been done, or is that for work coming up, because they closed as of October 31st? $52,000. I guess I'll open that one. A2, the city purchasing 207, 209 Jefferson Street. So I read that whole agreement, and in it, it says the city wants that vacant. So my question is, those are rent-controlled properties that I don't know if they are vacant now, and if they are, was the landlord warehousing apartments, because that's a no-no. And if not, they just got rid of the tenants, so no one's crying foul here about affordable housing. Okay, CD2, my favorite. Is there a cap on this lawsuit that the city's representing tenants? Because right now we're closing in on $100,000. Is it limitless? I hope you really put a cap on this, because everybody should know that the developer they're suing has deep pockets. And if by chance the city wins, I hope that they also get these fees back. T1, any idea when that Midtown Garage rehabilitation will start? It's been falling apart for years. I've had 2 family members who have had cars destroyed in there because they park in there monthly. CL3, I'm not going to delve into anything. We just went through a whole list of that stuff. How do residents get to be a part of that discussion? I mean, Kelly really should be a part of it, and no one really seems to address her concerns. All we hear is, oh, the poor restaurants, they spent money. This is a quality of life issue for people. And on the note of that, those bins that they're putting in may be good for garbage, but I just walked past one. And now the sidewalk looks like there's nothing left. There are some of us that don't own a car, don't use a bicycle. We like to walk. We're losing our sidewalks daily between trees, garbage bins, and everything else. And the reason there is more garbage is because the restaurants have expanded. So it produces more garbage. I think that about covers it for me. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman?
Excuse me, Patricia Waiters.
Hi, I have the same exact ones that Rose have, so I hope we get answers. So when y'all answer her, I'll be satisfied with that. But with 209 Jefferson Street and 207 and 209 Jefferson Street, I don't, well, y'all might say it is, but did any of you guys check and see, was it vacant?
It's vacant.
It's vacant? And it's not going to be no affordable. The city is actually buying this property back, am I right?
It would be the city purchasing, correct?
A city purchasing, but it's not telling you what it's for?
We can get to that. Just keep asking questions.
All right, what I want to know is, can any affordable be made out of that? I'm here tonight, which I'm going to be speaking about on the public portion. I don't want to see nobody else displaced. This is so heart-wrenching to see so many people being forced out. I got a very sad story. I'm going to talk on the public portion with that. And with the legal fees for rent leveling, I asked the same question the last meeting, and this person got $20,000 increase. And if it's not the same person, let me know, because it's still the same situation. And now they're getting another increase, but yet and still we have tenants getting evicted. So I don't know if this man did not reach out to this family that's here with me tonight, but this is what's disturbing for me, to see these legal fees keep exceeding the not to exceed amount. And I don't have nothing against attorneys, Joe, and all the other attorneys. I don't have nothing against attorneys, but it's a little disingenuous to see a not to exceed amount keep exceeding over the amount. And I love attorneys when it comes down to you, Mr. Iola, and I told you that when I came in here today, and I'm not joking, because at least we see you at work. You understand what I'm saying to you? Even in the day during court, I'm going to call it like it is. So if these fees was to exceed yours, I would shut up. No, I'm joking. But if these because then I'll be biased. If these fees is given to these lawyers that work as hard as you, then they deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Manny Rivera.
Is it Oyola or a lawyer that works hard?
I want to talk about which one is it.
He's a lawyer. A lawyer's a lawyer. I gotta meet the other guy.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Council President. I would like to take a few moments here because I have plenty to ask on consent agenda, but briefly, just for clarification, maybe we should have some type of explanation for members of the public in regards to the veto of B610. Because you just passed an ordinance, does it matter that B610 was vetoed at all? And if not, will you consider overriding that veto? I don't know. I just don't know what is the reason it was vetoed. I guess you just perhaps mentioned in the long statements that were made that it said banned, I guess. I don't know. But the one that was passed is way better than B610, if that could be clarified for members of the public. And now I would like to go to the rest of the agenda. Yes, A2, it's important for us to know, even though I was at a meeting, that I assumed those two buildings were going to be developed because it was next to the fire station. Am I correct? So now I'm assuming that we, the city, decided that in best interest to buy it and keep those developers away from the firehouse. And see, these are things and details that members of the public, knowing this, would be interested. And again, I invite them all to go to the zoning board, planning board meetings. They are very informative. Yes, thank you, council member. As well as CD2, CD5, And in CD2, it's the amount of the increase. Again, I'm assuming that this would be the final increase to total the 85,000 that was allocated at the beginning of the budget. And on CD2, again, I would like to know if we could have a little more clarity on what is the special counsel, and if any details can be given, as well as CC3, what is that a settlement without, again, if we can have some information, did we retrieve, as someone just said, some legal fees back, or did we have to pay out something? Could members of the public know CC3? Again, in environmental services, I'm going to go with CE1 and CE4. And CE4, if in that contract that's going to be made for the pest control and the rodents, there should be some type of a prove to us the job that you've done elsewhere, and in regards to mitigating rat and pest situations in other municipalities and other things that any of these companies have done, as well as a satisfactory clause, meaning, I don't know if it's legal or not, but where we can say it's been 3 months and these rats are still here overrunning us, we need to either step up or relinquish your contract, or we're going to terminate your contract. I think that is something that would help, and perhaps, I don't know, moving along. So I'm going to go on to Finance F1, F2, and F4. And in F2, I just want to say that was a grant, and I appreciate it. Of course, it's for the bulletproof vests, although I don't know if that amount is enough for a lot of bulletproof vests, but I hope we get enough for our bravest. And in F4, the importance here is members of the public are a little, I don't know if this is a loan or a bond, if it's a loan in regards to what. And I'm going to move on to, I'm going to skip, HH1, which is one that's another a grant that we're applying for. Again, when these grants come in, can members of the public know, this one says travel and tourism. A little more information on that, where I can get it. Again, you don't have to have a lengthy explanation, but something that we can at least have. And PS1, that is another, I believe, grant. And I would like to know, again, is that for the holiday season? I guess that's what it says here. It had nothing to do with last week's crackdown, I'm assuming, which was done, I think, in Jersey City. It was a county one, so I don't think we participated in that. The tax collector, TX2, again, that one is to express myself in favor, and in whoever decided to help the disabled veterans and take that deduction from their tax bill. That I'm sure was appreciated by them. And I'm not their spokesperson, but I want to say thank you for that one. And in transportation and parking, just so I don't feel left out, again, the Midtown Garage, I know it's no cost, but more information would be helpful. And I'm going to end it with, let's see, CL3, again, this was interesting, because I would like to say, through you, Council President, Council Member Ramos and Council Member Russo, I concur with Council Member Russo, most of what he said, as well as Council Member Ramos, but it does bring into the dialogue that could be had with the business owners. The streets, yes, they're paying a fee, but the streets, what I mean streets, the asphalt does need to be clean. It is a right for citizens to have clean streets, whether there's a parklet or a car. That's why a car gets a ticket when the cleaner is coming, because they should not be there, so that the street could be cleaned, a health issue. So again, thank you for your comments there. And of course, I'll leave the first reading, but I just want to remind Council President that next meeting, there will be about 10 ordinance and second reading that allows members of the public to speak 10 times for 5 minutes. That's daunting, but doable. So just a heads up. And again, if you want to mention,
A little bit of honey, a little bit of tea, you could do it.
yeah, and just for a little heads up, again, the 3, 4, and 6, it's a bond issue, which is important that members of the public know. A council that's about to change, maybe 1, maybe 3, how could you let members of the public feel comfortable that that decision that you're going to make to bond something, another council, whatever the composition is, will not perhaps be in favor of it? Just a question, again, not fighting or pointing any fingers or wanting anybody to leave the council. Thank you, Council President, for your time, and all of you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Motion to close public, oh, one more, sorry.
Goes by itself. I just wanted to add to what everybody shared, and if there is the potential for residents to be a part of the conversation with the HBA, I'd like to volunteer my time to do that, because I think that we need equal representation. And so if there is a committee or something that is going to be discussed with the HBA, I'd like to put my name in there to be part of that conversation, and I'm sure that I can ask some other residents to be part of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to close public portion?
Motion.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
On consent agenda, I'm going to pull CL3. I think Councilman Cohen, you pulled CD2.
Yep.
Other items?
E1.
E1 for Councilman Quintero. Any other items?
F1 and A2.
F1 and A2. Anything else? Okay, so to go through it, consent is, we've pulled for discussion A2, CD2, E1, F1, and CL3. All good? Mr. Freena on
E2, right?
Yes, he did. Yep, CD2 is pulled. Mr. Freena on consent.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes on everything, no on CC2. Because I disapprove of the firm, not the...
Jane Tino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
But those were going together.
A2 is up first, Councilman Fisher.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull it because I think for some of us, and I think the public is just not aware of what the idea is for this. I know that the city is looking to acquire these two properties. It's adjacent to the firehouse, and my understanding, and I could be wrong, is it's more has to do with potentially upgrading the firehouse and having the flexibility next to it. I don't know why the city didn't want to put that in writing, because I think it's something we all get behind. This is a firehouse that's just had a lot of struggles from just repair and maintenance. It's in an odd location. It doesn't make the best. It doesn't operate efficiently just because, or said differently, it would operate better if it had an expanded footprint in that location. So, I know supposedly a couple council members were aware of this. The rest of the council was not made aware.
It was discussed in subcommittee.
It was discussed in subcommittee with 4 council members, not shared with the rest of the council, and not at all shared with the public, which is a shame, right? Like that we work for the public. We're not meant to hide things from the public. And this is just one of those examples of hiding something from the public, which there was no reason to. It's like a great story, and it was like pulling teeth to get it out just so we could have this conversation publicly and say this is something good and we'd love to know more about it. And we should all get behind and support it. So that's it.
Councilman Doyle?
Well, it is in Acela, so if you're interested in what it is, you can actually look in Acela and their documents, and there is reference to the fact that it's being purchased for the purpose of expanding operations for safety, whether it's police, fire, etc. But So I think it's hard to
It wasn't in his
say-
cellar the other day.
Well, it's
Maybe it's there now, but it wasn't when I looked for it and I asked the administration
it was
for
there Sunday, so I don't. That's when I saw it there, but so I can't really go along with the fact that we're hiding something when it's on the website. But
I don't know. Just saying that that something's on a cellar. That's putting the bar pretty low for expectations as council members, saying, "Hey, this is going on, guys." Right?
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Saying, "Oh, it was on a cellar." That's
reviewing documents that we're going to be voting on.
No, I get it, but it's a little different than saying you get a phone call from a council member that was on the committee saying, "Hey, guys, this is what we're trying to do here. This is a good thing. What do you think? Are you in favor of this?" That's a little more, collegial relationship between people that say, "Hey, go look at a cellar." That's like the bar's pretty low for transparency and trying to work for a positive outcome here for a positive thing. That's the bar on that's a little low. That's all.
I mean, to be clear, it was discussed in subcommittee more than once, so I'm not sure if you're looking for a specific type of report from the subcommittees across each other.
Rube, this is going on your ward, Councilman. You support the fire department. I know where could you help? Because I've always tried to help, right, with any issue. I've never tried to block or be an obstacle on things. Okay, if I have a problem with it, okay, I have a problem with that, but maybe here's the solution. I've never been a one-off council member, ever. So just a little heads up would be appreciated, that's all.
Any other questions? Just to confirm, this, as is the case with all of the items that appear on the agenda, are discussed in subcommittee before they go to the agenda. And that is the process that we use. Yes, Councilwoman. Sure.
Thank you so
Sorry.
much. It's very typical when there's something in your ward that you do share it with the ward person before it's on the agenda. That's common practice. You don't have to do it, and you don't, but that is common practice.
True. To the director. Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Jean Tino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes. CD2, Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Council President. There was a question asked actually by Ms. Waiters about the lawyer's work with respect to CD2. This has to do with Antonelli Cantor, who is a rent leveling board attorney. They've been busy. For example, hey, Mr. Holmes. Holmesy.
Guys, all right, talk.
Trying to have a meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So, for example, the residents of the Jordan had a rent leveling board hearing recently where it was a determination made that all the residents of the Jordan are subject to rent control. This was a building that was charging market rents. For the residents of the Jordan, they had to make a determination at what point does the rent control rents begin running? Is it from the time of the certificate of occupancy? Is it from the time of the ruling of the rent leveling board? This is something that required legal advice with respect to Antonelli and Cantor. There are over 100 residents at the Jordan that are anxiously waiting a determination with respect to this because it's going to affect their rent very immediately. There's similar situations going on at the Rivington right now where the rent calculations being requested. There's over 200 unit owners over there. There are a lot of requests for rent calculations right now. Councilman Russo is nodding about, I'm sure he's thinking about the Avalon. Right now, the rent leveling board is doing some excellent work on behalf of the tenants to keep these building managers honest and to make them comply with the law. And that is, as Ms. Waiters asked, I know she was on the phone with Mr. Holmes, but as she asked, this is good work that's being done by the lawyers, and that is the purpose of CD2, to increase, exactly. So that's what I wanted to answer. So I would encourage folks to support it. Thank you, Council President.
Any other questions? Mr. Farina, please call the vote on CD2.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Jean Tino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes. E1 to Councilman Quintero.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering if either Director Gonzalez or Councilman Doyle could just expand on this one a little bit. This is related to the new park that's going to be on the next to Harborside Park. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this in subcommittee, environmental subcommittee. This is the walkway that's along the Weehawken or Hoboken Cove, depending.
Hoboken.
So
It's officially the Weehawken Cove.
I know, I'm just trying to be, biased. Anyway, yeah, so it's money to finish the repairs along the walkway right just to the north of the T building.
Any other questions? Mr. Farina, please call the vote on E1.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Giantino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes. F1, Councilman Fisher.
Yep. The question on this is we're transferring $250,000 from pension to capital improvement. Can you just talk about that? I didn't.
Sure, it's to cover the down payment on the bond.
No, not the capital improvement part. Sorry, the pulling the 250 out of the pension. Only because I thought the pension. Sorry, I thought the pension was a statutory number.
Yeah, it was moved. It's a place where there's a little bit of surplus from previous years. We have money, we can move it to the capital improvement fund.
Does that impact like our budgeting for next year, or do we can we reduce it? Do we feel like we're over?
No.
Okay.
Next year, the pension bill is going to increase substantially.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote on F1.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Giantino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes. CL3, which I had pulled. I just wanted to answer a couple of the questions that came up about the process around this. The goal in articulating, I think, the language of this resolution, I wrote it, is really just to be forthcoming about collaboration across the different entities involved. So there isn't a formal structure that's sort of in mind yet. There's no, proposed task force or committee, so to speak. It was more in the spirit of we're seeing a number of kind of one-off pieces of legislation that aren't necessarily being done in tandem with the administration and all the other folks who are involved as stakeholders. So the spirit of this was really to say that we need to be collaborative moving forward, and how that will look has yet to be determined. So there will be more information forthcoming. I'm very appreciative. I think she's gone, but to the member of the public who volunteered to potentially be involved, because I do think that's the spirit of it, to ensure that everyone has a seat at the table, whether you're a resident, a small business owner, part of the health department, part of the administration, part of the council. We all have a role to play. So I just wanted to answer those questions. I don't know if anyone else wanted to speak on this one. Mr. Farina, please call the vote on CL3.
Mr. Cohen? Aye. Mr. Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Giantino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
Ordinances for introduction, an ordinance of the City of Hoboken authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Hoboken, 1500 Clinton LLC, for the property designated as Block 133, lots 1 through 32 within the North End Rehabilitation Area.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Giantino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
Ordinance for introduction, an ordinance of the City of Hoboken authorizing the execution of public access agreement and park maintenance agreement between the City of Hoboken, 1500 Clinton LLC, for property designated as Block 131, lots 1 through 32 within the North End Rehabilitation Area.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Fusco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Giantino?
Yes.
Mr. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Ramos?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
President Jabour?
Yes.
Ordinance for introduction, amending to the Hoboken City Code, Chapter 138, outdoor dining to ban parklet until April 1st, 2024.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen,
No.
Mr. Fusco,
Which one was this again?
The ban on parklets, number 3 for first reading.
No.
excuse me,
No.
Mr. Doyle,
No.
Fisher,
No.
Giantino,
No.
Quintero,
No.
Mr. Ramos.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
President Jabour.
No.
Hearing on an ordinance amending to the Hoboken City Code, Chapter 138, outdoor dining requiring removal of all parklet deck.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen,
No.
Mr. Fusco,
No.
Mr. Doyle,
No.
Fisher,
No.
Giantino,
No.
Mr. Quintero,
No.
Mr. Ramos,
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
President Jabour.
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, Miss.
I said no.
Hearing on an ordinance amending Article 1, Chapter 46 of the Hoboken City Code entitled Lease Agreement at 49-9.4 to authorizing the mayor to execute a lease between Bono Pizza Corporation and Alicios.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote. Sorry.
Mr. Cohen,
Aye.
Fusco,
Yes.
Doyle,
Aye.
Fisher,
Yes.
Giantino,
Yes.
Mr. Quintero,
Aye.
Mr. Ramos,
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
President Jabour.
Yes.
Ordinance for introduction, bond ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain real property, the completion of various capital improvements, and the acquisition of various capital equipment, including public art allocation related thereto and for the city of Hoboken, County of Hudson, New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $7,070,000, therefore authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes for the city of Hoboken, County of Hudson, New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $6,716,500, making certain determinations and covenants and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen,
Aye.
Fusco,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Aye.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Giantino,
Yes.
Mr. Quintero,
Aye.
Mr. Ramos,
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
President Jabour.
Yes.
Ordinance for introduction to amend and supplement an ordinance establishing a schedule of classifications and allocations of the titles for the herein mentioned positions in the city of Hoboken.
Mr. Farina, please call the vote.
Mr. Cohen,
Aye.
Mr. Fusco.
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Aye.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Giantino,
Yes.
Mr. Quintero,
Aye.
Mr. Ramos,
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
President Jabour.
Yes.
Public portion. Rosemary Markle.
Sorry, Jim, you're right. You're right.
Just something quick. It's still cockeyed. My OCD's kicking in. Can we just have somebody shift it?
Oh, I thought you were talking about all the stuff in it.
Don't even show me that. No, it's this. That's all. Just appreciate it if they tipped it this way. And thank you for trying.
Thanks. Next speaker. Mr. Lord.
Patricia Waiters.
That's
1 minute, please.
Dead things.
Thank you, Council President. I have with me tonight 2 members of the public, and I'm quite sure Tiffany Fisher, they reached out to you too. And I'm not sure, Jen. Well, anyway, this is Marcella. Marcella Gonzalez, and I'm pleading on this council to help me with this. Simply because they did come to constituency services and talk to Nora. Since Nora been there too, she have called me in many occasions with the same situations, or some worse, some least worse, but tonight this is serious. This young lady and her significant other have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the household, including a toddler baby, sleeping in the park, and their door was locked yesterday. This could have been prevented when they went to the city to speak with Nora, and this is why I'm upset. I'm always talking about this Tennessee attorney and fees, and ask you, I always come here and ask you, do he help people that live here that's facing eviction? I've been going to court since pandemic. I know every clause in my sleep. Judge Toluca will tell you, he crack jokes all the time. I know these papers in my sleep. When they came and I got the call last night, thanks to Matt Mira too, and I got the call, the first thing I said, is it a warrant of removal? Because why y'all didn't go to City Hall? I usually send most of them here, or I'll do it myself and answer the show cause and ask for more time to. I helped them go to a program to get the rent money paid. Okay, because to my knowledge, it's still no eviction clause where you could just file the papers or go to court to help or whatever. I've been doing the process since pandemic. My thing is, I'm a little upset because they didn't even have time for a show cause when they reached out to constituency services on October 16th, 20th, and led up to yesterday, they removal of their property with the sheriff department. To see them with their 3 dogs and their kids to be sleeping in the park, and then someone, we don't know who did it, because I know my good friend, Mr. Ferranti, will look into it for me. Someone called the cops on them and told them they couldn't sleep in the park. I can't make these things up. And I'm so glad it's 6 days before an election, so I hope people have a conscience and could think with their heart and mind. Tonight is almost one of the coldest days, getting ready to be of the year, almost 20 degrees. Please, somebody, don't do like y'all did, Liz. Give them shelter tonight, somebody, and I guarantee you, Pat Wade is going to be in the courthouse in the morning at 8 o'clock before they open up. All I'm asking for, if you could house them for tonight, since I just got the case today, okay? Because see, this is what I told y'all when I run for office. Lo and behold, an election come up. I help everybody. I don't care who you is. You knock on my door, I'm going to be there with all matters of concern. I'm asking my government body tonight here to please help me. And you can't just say go in the shelter. Y'all so quick to say that. Husband and wife here, kids, and a newborn toddler baby. Okay? So I'm leaving it up to you. Please, again, dig down in them corners of your pocket and pull out some coins. And do something, at least just for tonight, so I could go show cause for this and get them back into their unit. Thank you.
Manuel Rivera Soler.
Good evening, Council President. Once again, council members, members of the public, thank you so much for your attention this evening. What was just said previously does show a serious issue in our municipality, not because or not regarding the circumstances of each individual person that becomes unhoused. It is important that we have some type of a system where immediately someone could get help and doesn't have to sleep in a park, then get the police called on them. Now, I was not going to speak on that, but I just heard it right now, and it touches the heart that our residents, especially our senior residents, have to go through situations like this, and they can't be helped before they become unhoused. It's a very sad circumstance. Now, I would like to continue by saying, Council President, again, through you, I would like to ask my fellow residents to please don't let things sneak up on you. An informed electorate is a powerful electorate. Know the things that are happening. I always encourage all my fellow members of the public and my fellow residents to join the meetings. Not all of them, you don't have to, but some. There are over, I would say, 12 meetings in November. This is the agenda, easily to access in the city portal. There's one that's very important for members of the Southwest. It's the planning board on November 9th, and that they're going to make a second presentation of an issue for many members of the public of the South Side in regards to a property that's being considered for development there. A lot was said that day in that planning board meeting. Members of the public were unable to speak, or for some reason, no fault or no malice, but now is important that we have a second chance that members of the public of that certain section come and listen and express themselves. As well as, I will also like to say that I don't know if I knew just a little more. This is the first time that I'm like, wow, when I spoke about the firehouse, that I found it interesting when I was reading that I was at a meeting where that was discussed at length, not one meeting, 2 meetings, and it boggles the mind how much time was taken from members of the public and the board that was there to consider all the little details, and now it's been changed. Now that's work that time and effort that's not going to come back, even though I'm assuming it's a better deal because the fire station does need extra space, and I hope something comes there better. And as far as if I wish I was able to speak when at the beginning of the meeting, when you were doing Division 0, to mention the traffic signal on the crossing of Patterson Plank Road. It is a dangerous circumstance and situation. I don't know if that light needs to be made longer. Of course, I will ask the county commissioners, because I also advocate for Hoboken in the county many, many times. And, these are little details. I wanted to say other things in regards to the stop signs that we're seeing. When I was admonished in one meeting that I appreciate, I see them and I see that it says new, and as well as the crossing guards, the hiring of the crossing guards, we need more, and as well as the new police officers, they're on the job, and our credit to our community that they have chosen Hoboken to work there. And with this, Council President, I would just like to say that, again, to all the members of the public, you still have time. You still have time to watch the debates. You still have time to make your choice. It's very important. Be informed. Vote. You can vote early, and you can vote on traditional election day. And my final thing, Council President, I want to say that November, as always, is, put on my glasses, say it correctly, Native American Heritage Month. And I always like to mention that because I always like to, members of the public, those that are new and those that are here, to remember the native tribes that were here in Hoboken, the Lenni Lenape. I said that smooth. I didn't need any help. I was practicing. So I appreciate, again, your time, your effort. Thank you for listening to the members of the public. And good night. God bless you, and God bless Hoboken. Thank you.
Edward Reap.
I love that statement, God bless Hoboken. I'm going to read Okay, in the last public comment I did, I was kind of all over the place, so I'm going to be really focused this time. Okay, so I am going to read a Bible verse that I think should be read before every public comment period in our government halls. And this is from 1 Timothy 2, and it's verses 1 and 2, and it says, I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. I can't think of anything better than a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. And, once the election is over, I'm hoping that's what I have. But, and I'm going to So I think I just want to kind of reinforce that everyone on this council is a wonderful person who is truly good, truly moral, truly cares. And even if there are disagreements or even if, or people make fun of each other on Twitter, which I promise I'm not going to do anymore. I'm so sorry. I keep thinking I'm going to be nice on Twitter, and then Hoboken trolls a very bad influence. And I apologize. Okay, but even in as much as we might have disagreements or conflicts, hopefully they're kind of in a spirit of fun. Like, I think sometimes, when there's a resolution and we disagree, like the book Sanctuary resolution, that was kind of fun. I knew that I disagreed with the council on that, but I had a good time arguing the other side. Sometimes it's fun to disagree politically, and it can be, there's a way to do it that's not toxic, that's not mean or upsetting. There's a way to kind of have fun with social issues a little bit, or have fun with issues that might be more symbolic, and then there's more serious issues we have to debate. I think when it comes to the parklet issue, I just want to go back to that. I know we kind of voted on it, so I'm definitely, I guess I understand the moderate view on parklets, and that's probably what I've been expressing, but I just really want to praise Russo for having the guts to stick to the idea that he said he wanted to ban parklets, and he voted against it, even though he knew that ordinance wouldn't pass. He stuck to his guns. He made an honorable decision. I mean, to say he wanted to ban parklets, he thought it was the right thing to do, and he voted to ban them, and go on the record doing that, even if it might not have. Even if there's a contingent of people for whom that would be unpopular, and even though I personally am a moderate on parklets, I'm like, man, what I gotta respect that so much. Is just to stick to your guns. So that's pretty awesome. Here's the truth about the rat situation, right? I'm a Gemini, so I'm cursed by seeing both sides of the issues constantly. Like, I can usually, with the exception of one issue, which you guys might know what that issue is, with the exception of that one issue, I pretty much can see both sides of every issue. So I won't mention the one issue that I'm one-sided on, but so I see both sides, and I think truth be told, after the 5-month moratorium, if it turns out that the parklets are still a problem and we have rats, we'll have to see what the public thinks, right? I just think everyone here is a badass, and let's do the right thing, and let's be friends and love each other. And if we do disagree, or even even get passionate and disagree on certain issues, just keep it fun, and never any of the hateful stuff, never any of the, and honestly, no one here on the council is really ever hateful. I think it's only a small contingent. So just keep up the good work. You guys are good. Be friends. Even if you disagree, be friends. Love and peace. In Jesus' name, I pray the best for all of you, and hopefully when the election's over, everyone here, whether you're on the council or whether you're a private citizen, just, live in all peace and godliness. And I just hope everyone here on the council who's a normal person who leads a regular life isn't as stressed out, and that they can do the job on the council and also have fun and be regular people too. God bless. Okay.
Max Thompson.
Good evening, council members. Max Thompson, Blue Violet Dispensary at 628 Washington Street. I want to come up and talk about 3 things. I don't know that they're necessarily related, but they've been on our mind, so I want to talk about them. The first is that last week we filed a notice of appeal, as well as a motion for stay for the decision against us. And then we promptly received a letter from HFRC and Mr. Techo threatening sanctions against us, claiming that our claims were frivolous and that we were only trying to increase their litigation fees. Could you imagine that? We were trying to increase their litigation fees. I don't even have a joke for that, so I'll just leave it at that. The second thing I want to talk about is Village Dispensary at 516 Washington Street. There has been a notable lack of discussion about Village since the decision against us. They got their permit the day after us. I know they are within 600 feet of the middle school. And there was a lot of discussion about that. HFRC put a newsletter out about it. And then when they talked about our loss in court, they talked about Terrapin, they talked about culture, they talked about harmony, but they didn't say anything about Village, which was kind of weird. They're within 600 feet of the middle school, and I'm waiting for the people who are on this council to start talking a lot more about it, but I've heard nothing. And they're still building out. So why can't we? I don't know. The last thing I want to talk about is I'm getting very, very, very familiar with the local government ethics law. I'm looking into it. I think we've been through a lot. There's been a lot of activity done in respect to us and the application. So I'm looking at that law, and I'm taking the free time I have, which is very little, to get familiar with it and see if there's anything I want to do about that. So good luck with the election next week. I'm sure we'll have more to say about this in the next 6 days, of course, online and in person. And if anyone wants to come and talk to us, feel free. We're available. You know how to reach us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marcella Gonzalez.
Nope. Oh, that's, yes, okay.
Yeah.
It's the one. That's, so why don't we do this? I think all of us want to have a conversation. I don't think it's appropriate to have that conversation in public forum. This is your life. So could you just hold tight until the meeting is officially closed? And then we'll all make sure to have a conversation about what we can do. I think that would be the best. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Waiters, for bringing that forward. Of course.
Emmanuel Amaya.
Thank you. Hello, Council. Good evening. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know it's getting towards that, towards the end of the day. I want to speak in support for Blue Violet Dispensary. I have 5 years of dispensary experience myself. I worked in New Jersey's first medical dispensary over in Montclair, New Jersey. I feel brokenhearted, honestly, to see these guys not open. I looked at it as not only an opportunity for small business to prosper in Hoboken, but also as an opportunity for residents of Hoboken to have a chance to work in this growing field. Hoboken has there's low income, high income. A lot of those low income people could have used this opportunity. They have lots of experience between not just experience of practicing law, but healthcare experience. This is something that's a health product, it helps people. The science shows that when a dispensary opens, adolescent drug use actually goes down. Why is that? Because the black market does not get to prosper. They care about who's 21 and over. The black market does not. I grew up here, Hoboken native, born and raised. When I hear of names like DeFusco, Ramos, Fisher, I think of my classmates. I think of teachers. I think of, my disciplinarians growing up, the people that I could go to for help. These guys need to have their opportunity. There's so many bars on Washington Street. Why not give Hoboken, the hardworking town it is, an opportunity to de-stress in an alternative manner? Might help with that rat problem. Not so many people drinking, spilling their food on the outside. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. And, hear these guys out. They're good people. They want to help people with efficacious medicine. There's nothing wrong with that. They look at the science. I saw someone else volunteer for, becoming a part of a board with my experience and, being a Hoboken native. I would also like to donate my time for anything cannabis related. I have a lot of experience in the field. Before I worked in cannabis, I also worked in the healthcare industry in New Jersey for over 5 years. Familiar with compliance? It's one of the most regulated, one of the most regulated things out there. It's more regulated than alcohol, that's for sure. It's more regulated than the pharmacy, if you ask me. It's there's so many reasons for them to open and so many reasons for them not being open. The causation is just, it hurts Hoboken. It hurts Hoboken, you're hurting small business, and hear these guys out, man. That's all I ask. Have a good night, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Motion to close public portion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just want to make a quick announcement. It is currently voting season. Early voting has already opened and is available downstairs in the ground floor conference room. Enter on the Newark Street side. That will continue through, I believe, Sunday the 5th. And on Sunday it closes early. It's open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day except for Sunday, which is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you have a vote by mail, you must make sure that your vote by mail is certified and in the mail by Election Day, which is, I should have said that from the start, Tuesday, November 7th. So please make sure to return that. Otherwise, the polls will be open on Election Day, Tuesday, November 7th. Please make sure to check your location because some of the locations have changed with the updated districting. That information was all provided in a Nixle alert that went out on October 27th. With that, motion to close.
One request, I'm sorry, from the American Legion.
Okay.
Yes, request from the American Legion. They have a Ruck the River event on November 9th, supporting the Afghan personnel that helped the U.S. forces in the Afghan war that they served in. So they're having to benefit those individuals that help them, the personnel trying to get them here in the United States to get their citizenship or get their visas. So they're having that event November 9th. That's a request from American Legion. So hopefully everyone can support that event.
What
Thank
time
you.
is it, Ruben?
Time.
I think it is.
I don't have a time.
I do. It's on my Facebook
It
page.
says it's in the evening. I know that. It's called Ruck the River, November 9th.
Yeah, so it's on their social media, right?
Yep. Perfect. Thank
For
you.
the Legion.
President.
Perfect.
I appreciate it.
Motion to close.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.